He hired a pregnant widow as cook, but the mountain man learned what love really means. The twin suns of Dust Spire burned hot over the barren red canyons. The wind carried dust and grit, rubbing against the metal walls of the old mining outpost like tiny whispers of the planet's forgotten past. Out in the middle of nowhere, the outpost sat like a lonely sentinel, keeping watch over the silent rocks and deep canyon shadows. Ryder Kane stood at the edge of the outpost's main platform, his boots pressing against the rough metal. He squinted against the sun's glare and rubbed his jaw. He had been alone for months, ever since the last shipment of miners had left for the central colonies. The wind howled over the cliffs, tugging at his coat, and he felt the usual tug of solitude settle deep in his chest. Life here was hard, and company had always been a complication. But today, the universe seemed intent on giving him both company and complication. A small shuttle descended from the sky, stirring dust and rocks. Ryder tightened his grip on the railing. The craft landed with a hiss, and a single figure stepped down. She was a woman, tall in the shadows of the shuttle, with dark hair tucked under a wide-brimmed hat. Even through the dust, Ryder could see she carried herself carefully, balancing a bag and something else, a soft, round shape under her coat that hinted at a secret he would soon discover. Ryder Kane? Her voice was calm, but there was a steady strength behind it. "That's me," Ryder said, adjusting his coat. "You here for work?" "Yes," she said, letting the bag slide from her hand. "I'm Claire Vale." "You wanted a cook." Ryder raised an eyebrow. "Cook, huh?" "For this dump? You sure about that?" Clara gave a small smile, and for the first time, Ryder noticed a flicker of warmth in her eyes. "I can handle it," she said. She paused, then added quietly, "And I'm good with more than just cooking, if need be." Ryder studied her. Something in her made him wary, but also curious. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, or the way her eyes seemed to notice everything around her without judgment. He had lived on Dustspire long enough to know people came and went, and most didn't last. But there was something different about Clara. "Fine," he said finally. "You start tomorrow, but don't expect anyone to make this easy for you. Out here, you get eaten by the dust or the silence if you're not careful." Clara nodded as if she understood. "I'm ready." As the shuttle lifted off, leaving a swirl of red dust in its wake, Ryder couldn't help but notice the small bulge under Clara's coat again. Her hand brushed it unconsciously. She wasn't just a woman. There was something fragile and precious she was protecting. The next morning, Clara moved through the outpost like she had been here for years. She lit the old stove without hesitation and prepared breakfast for Ryder, who had not eaten anything but ration bars for days. The smell of freshly baked bread and roasted beans filled the small mess hall, making the harsh metal walls feel a little warmer. "You didn't have to do all this," Ryder said, staring at the plates she had set out. Clara shrugged. "A good meal makes the day better." "Even on Dustspire," Ryder grunted. He didn't say more, but he noticed something subtle. For the first time in months, the wind and the dust felt less oppressive, as if the act of sharing a meal had opened a small door in the outpost's lonely heart. As they ate, Ryder kept glancing at her. Clara's movements were careful, measured, but there was a quiet confidence in how she handled everything. She worked quickly, with precision, and yet she didn't seem rushed. Ryder realized she wasn't just surviving, she was observing, learning, preparing, and that made him uneasy. "You're hiding something," he said finally, breaking the silence. Clara looked at him, her eyes calm. "Maybe I am." She paused, then added softly, "But not from you." "Not really?" Ryder narrowed his eyes. "Not from me?" "Not unless it matters." Clara smiled faintly. "Out here, survival matters. Trust is earned slowly, not given freely." Ryder leaned back, impressed, despite himself. She had spirit, and a quiet strength he hadn't seen in anyone for years. He felt something stir deep in him, a feeling he had thought buried under Dustspire's endless wind. Curiosity, concern, something he had forgotten he could feel. Later that day, Ryder took Clara on a tour of the outpost. They moved past the mining shafts and the old storage units, past the broken drones and the rusted machinery, and up to the cliffs that overlooked the canyon below. From there, the vast red desert stretched endlessly, silent except for the wind and the occasional flicker of dust. "Beautiful," Clara said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. Ryder snorted. "Beauty? Out here? I call it dangerous. But yeah, dangerous can be beautiful, I guess." They walked in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Ryder kept glancing at her, noticing how her presence softened the harsh lines of the outpost. For the first time, he felt the weight of loneliness, and he wondered if maybe he had been too stubborn to admit he needed someone. That evening, as the suns dipped low and cast long shadows across the canyon, Clara worked in the small kitchen, humming softly to herself. Ryder sat nearby, watching the way her hands moved, careful yet steady, preparing the night meal. And then he noticed something strange. A small glow shimmered from the inside pocket of her apron. Ryder leaned closer, but Clara caught his glance. "It's nothing," she said quickly, covering it. Ryder frowned. "Nothing glows like that. What is it?" Clara hesitated, then shook her head. "It's just a keepsake." "From someone I lost." Ryder felt a pang of curiosity. "Someone you lost?" "Yes," she said softly. "My husband. He died before I got here. I keep this with me to remember him. And to protect what he left behind." Ryder didn't ask more. He understood the words without needing more detail. Loss was part of life here, part of surviving. But he noticed the care she took, the way she held it close, and realized she wasn't just a cook. She was guarding something precious, something alive, in a world that often forgot how to feel. As night fell and the outpost lights flickered on, Ryder found himself walking to the edge of the platform again. The winds blew harshly, carrying dust across the canyon, but for the first time he didn't feel completely alone. He thought about Clara, about the quiet strength she carried, and about the mysterious glow tucked in her apron. He realized that maybe this world, with all its harshness and isolation, had just thrown him a puzzle he was willing to solve. That night, as he drifted into a restless sleep, Ryder thought about what it meant to protect someone and to care for someone again. Dustspire was unforgiving, and he had always relied on his own skills to survive. But something in Clara's presence made him wonder if survival could mean more than just staying alive. Somewhere deep in the canyon, a soft hum echoed, faint, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. Ryder didn't know if it came from the artifact Clara guarded or from the canyon itself. But he knew one thing. Dustspire had changed, and he was no longer alone. Tomorrow he would learn more about Clara, about her past, and about the strange gift she carried. But tonight he allowed himself a rare thought. A small, dangerous hope. Maybe, just maybe, life on Dustspire could mean more than work and solitude. Maybe it could mean friendship, trust, and something like love. And somewhere in the silent red desert, under the twin suns and the watchful cliffs, the winds carried a promise. Change was coming, and it had a name. Clara Vale. The morning sun barely rose over Dustspire when Ryder Kane stepped out onto the platform. The air was thin, dry, and smelled of dust and metal. He squinted against the harsh light and scanned the canyon below. Nothing had changed, except for Clara. She was already outside, moving carefully among the scattered crates and machinery. Her apron glinted faintly, catching the sunlight just enough to reveal the small artifact tucked in her pocket. Ryder noticed it immediately, but this time he didn't ask. He had learned that some things could not be forced from a person. Clara had begun to settle into the rhythms of the outpost. She swept the floors, cleaned the machinery, and cooked with a precision that made Ryder wonder if she had lived 100 lives before this one. Her presence changed the outpost slowly. Even the old drones that had been left to rust seemed less hostile when she moved among them, her hands brushing the cold metal as if calming it. Ryder, however, could feel something shifting beneath the calm surface. The drones had begun to act strangely. One lifted off the ground suddenly, its lights blinking in erratic patterns. Another spun in a tight circle, as though confused. Ryder frowned, scratching his stubbled chin. Dustspire had always been a dangerous place, but this was unusual. Machines rarely acted like this without cause. Clara noticed the same behavior when she came outside carrying breakfast. "They're reacting to something," she said, setting plates down on the crate. "It's subtle, but it's there. They're listening." Ryder sat on the edge of the platform, picking at a piece of bread. Listening? They're just old machines. Nothing alive here but dust. Clara shook her head. No. Something is out there. Something old. Older than us. I think it might be linked to this. She held up the artifact in her hand. It shimmered faintly, pulsing with a soft, otherworldly light. Ryder leaned closer. "You're saying it's talking to them?" "Not talking," Clara said, her voice low.
"Responding. They know it's here."
"They feel it." He studied her carefully. There was no fear in her eyes, only focus. Ryder realized that she had faced dangers before, dangers he had never even imagined. He felt a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Fine," he said finally. Let's see what it wants. They spent the next few hours moving among the drones, adjusting circuits and watching for changes. Clara's touch seemed to calm the machines, and Ryder noticed how naturally she understood their patterns, almost as if she could hear the unspoken hum of their wires. For the first time he felt that maybe she belonged in this strange, harsh world. As the suns climbed higher, a distant sound broke the quiet, a low whirring, not from the wind, but from something mechanical. Ryder froze. Clara looked toward the horizon, her expression sharpening. "Skyship," she said. "And not just any ship." Ryder followed her gaze. In the distance, a small vessel cut across the red sky. It was sleek, its hull glinting like a shard of metal in the sun. Ryder knew instantly that it wasn't a friendly trader or a passing shuttle. It was hunting. "Hunters," he said, his voice low. "They're after something." "What is it this time?" Clara glanced at the artifact in her hand. "It's connected." "They want it." Ryder's jaw tightened. He didn't like the sound of that. The artifact had been harmless until now, something personal for Clara, and now strangers were coming for it. He realized that protecting Clara meant protecting more than just a person. It meant protecting a secret, a memory, and perhaps something much larger than either of them. The ship descended closer, its engines kicking up a cloud of dust. Ryder moved instinctively, placing himself between Clara and the ship's landing area. Clara's hand brushed his arm, not in fear, but in reassurance. "We can handle this," she said softly, "without hurting anyone." Ryder nodded. He didn't know how, but he trusted her. They moved quickly, not to fight, but to prepare. Clara directed the drones to form patterns on the ground, blinking lights in specific sequences. Ryder repaired a small old projector and adjusted it to cast holographic illusions around the outpost. Their plan was simple: confuse the hunters, slow them down, and protect the artifact. When the skyship landed, a group of strangers stepped out. They moved carefully, scanning the outpost, but immediately paused when they saw the holograms flickering across the metal walls. Ryder and Clara watched from above, hidden as the hunters' eyes widened in confusion. "They're clever," Clara whispered, "but they didn't expect the canyon to fight back." Ryder grinned faintly. It felt strange working with someone, relying on her instincts as much as his own. He realized that this partnership, however temporary, was shifting something inside him. For years, he had trusted only himself. Now he was beginning to trust someone else. Hours passed, and the hunters became frustrated. The drones, guided by Clara's careful touch, led them in circles. Holographic illusions, projected doors where none existed, shadows that moved with intent, and pathways that seemed to vanish. Ryder watched, impressed by Clara's intelligence and calm. As the hunters retreated, muttering about the strange machines and the impossible terrain, Clara turned to Ryder. "They won't be back soon, but they'll return," she said. "We need to be ready." Ryder looked at her, noticing the calm strength in her eyes. He thought about the way she had handled the artifact, the drones, and the hunters without a single harsh word or act of violence. There was courage in her that he had never known before, and he realized with a quiet ache that he was beginning to care, not just about survival, but about her. Later, as the sun set and painted the canyon walls in shades of orange and purple, Ryder and Clara sat on the platform. The artifact glowed softly between them. Ryder finally asked the question he had been avoiding. "Tell me about him," he said, nodding toward the artifact. "Your husband." Clara looked at it, then back at Ryder. "He loved this world," she said quietly. "He dreamed of building a home here, in Dustspire. He believed people could come, settle, and thrive, even in a place that seemed impossible. He wanted to leave something behind that mattered." Ryder listened, understanding more than words could say. He thought about his own life, about the years he had spent alone, avoiding attachments because he thought it was safer. Clara's words made him wonder if he had been missing something essential. "Why didn't you stay?" he asked. Clara smiled faintly, a bittersweet expression. "I had to survive. And now, I want to honor him, protect what he left. But also, maybe start over. That's why I'm here." Ryder felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. He realized that the outpost, the canyon, and even the desert itself had brought something unexpected. Hope. And with Clara by his side, it felt like more than hope. It felt like a chance to rediscover life. The night deepened, and Dustspire's twin moons rose over the canyon. The air was cooler now, carrying the scent of distant rocks and the faint hum of the artifact. Ryder and Clara sat in silence for a long time, each lost in their thoughts. Ryder realized that the danger of the hunters was only part of the story. The larger story was about trust, companionship, and the quiet courage it took to open one's heart after loss. As they finally headed inside, Ryder glanced at Clara. She was tired, but her eyes held a steady light, a reflection of the strength he had begun to admire. He realized that tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps new visitors, and certainly more tests of their skill and patience. But for now, in the soft glow of the outpost's lights, he felt something rare. Peace. Somewhere deep in the canyon, the artifact pulsed gently, as if it were alive. Ryder knew that his presence would change everything, not just for Clara, but for both of them, and for the first time in a long while, he felt ready to face those changes, not alone, but with someone who had earned his trust, his respect, and perhaps something even deeper. Dustspire was a harsh, unforgiving place, but it had also become a place of learning, growth, and unexpected connection. Ryder realized that surviving here was not just about strength or skill. It was about heart, about courage, and about the willingness to care for someone other than yourself. And with Clara by his side, he felt that maybe survival could mean more than simply staying alive. Maybe it could mean hope, trust, and the slow, careful return of something he had thought lost forever, the ability to love again. The twin sons of Dustspire had barely climbed the horizon when Ryder Kane led Clara toward the canyon edge. The day was crisp, the air carrying a faint metallic scent from the distant mining shafts. But this morning, Ryder's focus was not on work or machines. It was on the strange anomaly Clara had noticed the day before. "Are you sure about this?" Ryder asked, glancing at the canyon below. Its red cliffs twisted and folded like the pages of an ancient, unread book. "I don't like wandering into places we can't see the bottom of." Clara smiled faintly, adjusting the strap of her bag that carried the glowing artifact. "I've been drawn to it before. My husband, he believed there was something here, hidden. He left clues. We just need to follow them." Ryder looked at her, the sunlight glinting off her apron and the small pulse of the artifact beneath it. She moved with purpose, but there was also caution. He realized she wasn't just exploring, she was seeking. And for some reason he felt compelled to follow her, even into the unknown. They descended the canyon carefully, stepping from rock to rock, testing each ledge. Ryder had spent years navigating Dustspire's cliffs, but even he felt the unfamiliar tension of the canyon twisting beneath his boots. Clara moved beside him, calm, steady, and unwavering. She carried a quiet confidence that made Ryder realize something he had long ignored. Some people belonged in adventure, not just survival. After an hour of careful descent, they reached a narrow crevice. Clara crouched and held up the artifact. It pulsed softly, casting a faint green light that danced across the walls. Ryder noticed tiny carvings in the rock, patterns that seemed almost alive, twisting and turning like ancient symbols. "This way," Clara whispered. She slipped into the crevice, motioning Ryder to follow. The tunnel was narrow, but it opened into a larger chamber. Ryder gasped softly as the light from the artifact revealed a world unlike anything he had imagined. The walls glowed with soft bioluminescent plants, their tendrils curling gracefully. Small, luminescent insects floated through the air, their bodies like tiny lanterns in the dark. The air smelled faintly sweet, like a desert flower after rain. Clara moved forward, her hand trailing along the glowing walls. "This place, it's alive," she said softly. "Not just with plants or insects. There's energy here, something older than Dustspire itself." Ryder's eyes followed her movements. He realized that Clara was not just exploring for herself, she was honoring her husband's memory. Every step she took, every careful motion, seemed to respect the canyon's history. He felt a stirring inside him, a mix of awe and curiosity he hadn't experienced in years. As they ventured deeper, they noticed strange mechanical objects partially buried in the canyon floor. Broken drones, remnants of old mining tools, and pieces of alien machinery that hummed faintly in response to the artifact. Ryder knelt to inspect one, brushing dust from its surface. "This isn't just abandoned tech," he said. "It's way beyond anything humans made here. My husband found this once. He believed someone or something left it here for a reason. That's why I brought the artifact. It's the key to understanding it." Ryder studied her. "You really believe that?" Clara smiled faintly, a mix of hope and sadness. "I have to. If I don't, he'll be gone entirely. And maybe we could build something here too." They continued navigating twists and turns of glowing walls. The artifact pulsed brighter as they approached a larger chamber. There, in the center, lay a circular platform of smooth stone, etched with symbols that glowed faintly. Ryder stepped closer, feeling a strange warmth in the air. "This must be it," Clara whispered. She knelt near the platform, placing the artifact gently in the center. The light from it expanded, illuminating the entire chamber. Ryder could see intricate carvings on the walls, depictions of figures moving through space, landscapes, and strange glowing creatures. The artifact hummed softly. Ryder realized it was not just a piece of memory. It was alive with energy. It responded to Clara's presence, as if recognizing her. And Ryder noticed something else. The hum seemed to resonate with him as well, deep in his chest. "What is this place?" Ryder asked. Clara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the green glow. "It's a memory," she said softly, "of a world that came before us. My husband found it once and believed it could teach us how to build, not just survive." Ryder felt a weight settle over him. He had always thought survival was enough. Work, skill, solitude, that was all Dustspire had taught him. But standing here, with Clara and the artifact, he realized survival was not the end. There was something more.
Understanding.
Connection. Legacy. As they explored, the artifact pulsed again, sending waves of light across the chamber. Ryder noticed symbols that seemed to react to their movements, almost like the canyon itself was alive and observing them. He reached out, brushing a symbol with his finger. The glow intensified, and a faint projection appeared, a scene of a small settlement thriving in a canyon, like Dustspire. People moved among glowing plants, children played near alien machines, and the air shimmered with energy. Clara gasped softly. "He imagined this," she whispered. "My husband, he believed Dustspire could be home, not just a place to survive." Ryder felt a warmth in his chest. He looked at Clara, noticing the hope in her eyes, the quiet strength she carried even in grief. He realized that she wasn't just preserving the past. She was daring to dream of a future. Hours passed as they studied the chamber. Ryder and Clara moved with care, touching symbols, observing patterns, and documenting the glowing flora and strange devices. Ryder noticed how naturally Clara took to the work, her movements confident, her mind sharp. He realized he had never met anyone like her, someone who could survive loss and still dream. When they finally rested, sitting on the smooth stone platform, Ryder spoke quietly. "You really think people could live here?" Clara looked at him, her eyes soft. "My husband believed it, and I want to try. But I can't do it alone." Ryder felt a stirring he had thought long dead. "You don't have to," he said. I'll help. I'll stay." Clara smiled, faint but genuine, and for the first time, Ryder felt the bond between them deepen. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was trust, hope, maybe even something like love. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Ryder noticed a faint glow coming from a narrow tunnel at the far end. "What's that?" he asked. Clara's expression grew serious. "I don't know, but I think it's the next part. My husband called it the heart of the canyon. He said it held answers and maybe guidance for what comes next." Ryder nodded. "Then we go." They moved carefully toward the glowing tunnel. The artifact pulsed brighter, as if encouraging them forward. Ryder felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Dustspire had tested him for years, forcing him to survive in solitude. But now, with Clara beside him, he felt ready to face the unknown. As they stepped into the tunnel, the bioluminescent walls bathed them in soft green light. Strange, gentle hums echoed around them, vibrating through the stone floor. Ryder realized that Dustspire was more than a desert world. It was alive, ancient, and patient. It had been waiting for someone like Clara, someone who could understand, protect, and dream. Hours later, they reached a larger chamber filled with glowing symbols and patterns. Ryder paused, taking in the sight. The artifact floated slightly above the stone platform, pulsing in response to the chamber's energy. Ryder placed a hand near it, feeling warmth radiate through his fingers. Clara watched him, her eyes soft. "It recognizes you too," she whispered. "The canyon, it knows who belongs here." Ryder's chest tightened. He had always thought he belonged to no one and nowhere. But now, standing in the heart of Dustspire's canyon, he realized he was wrong. He belonged here, with Clara, with the artifact, and with a place that was more alive than he had ever imagined. The chamber pulsed again, sending waves of light across the walls. Ryder and Clara looked at each other, silent but understanding. They had discovered something incredible, something ancient and alive. But more than that, they had discovered each other. And for Ryder Kane, that was the most extraordinary discovery of all. The first light of Dustspire's twin suns crept over the horizon, casting long shadows across the Red Canyon. Ryder Kane stood on the platform of the outpost, squinting against the sun's glare. Beside him, Clara Vale carefully adjusted the glowing artifact, now resting in a protective case she had fashioned from scrap metal and glass. The artifact pulsed softly, as if sensing the morning calm. Ryder stretched his arms and took a deep breath. For weeks they had navigated alien tunnels, deciphered strange symbols, and evaded hunters who had sought the artifact. But the real discovery had been something unexpected. The connection between them, and the hope that Dustspire could be more than a harsh desert. Clara turned to him, her eyes reflecting the early sunlight. "We should return to the outpost," she said softly. "There's more to do today. The artifact's energy is strong, and I think it's ready to guide us." Ryder nodded, feeling a lightness in his chest he hadn't felt in years. Together, they made their way back to the surface, carefully climbing the canyon walls. The desert was silent, except for the wind and the occasional hum of a distant drone. Ryder felt a sense of anticipation, a quiet thrill that the day ahead could change everything. When they reached the outpost, Ryder noticed something remarkable. In the time they had been away, the outpost seemed smaller, yet more alive. Clara's presence had always made it feel warmer, but now, standing in the soft glow of morning, Ryder realized it was ready for more, ready for life. Clara placed the artifact on a central table in the mess hall. It floated slightly above the surface, pulsing with light. The walls of the outpost seemed to reflect the glow, and Ryder noticed a faint vibration in the floor, a gentle hum that resonated with his chest. Ryder asked. Clara smiled. "It's showing us possibilities. The artifact, it's not just a keepsake. It's a guide. It's helping us see what this place could become." Ryder studied the glowing patterns. Images shimmered in the air. Small gardens of glowing plants, water flowing through carved channels, settlers moving between homes built into the canyon walls. Children laughed into projections, playing safely among bioluminescent flora. Ryder's chest tightened. This was more than imagination. It was a vision of a life he had never thought possible. "Your husband, he dreamed this?" Ryder asked quietly. Clara nodded. "He believed Dustspire could be home, not just a place to survive. He wanted people to build, to grow, to live without fear." Ryder looked at her, noticing the soft determination in her eyes.
"Then we'll do it. I'll help you."
"We'll make it real." Clara's smile widened. "I knew you would." The day passed quickly as they began preparations. Ryder worked to repair the drones and old mining equipment, following Clara's careful instructions. She directed him with calm precision, her mind always thinking several steps ahead. Together they moved through the outpost, transforming it from a simple shelter into the foundation of a new settlement. As they worked, Ryder noticed how naturally Clara adapted to everything. She was patient, clever, and unafraid to try new solutions. He realized that this was the life she had been preparing for all along, not just survival, but building something meaningful. By midday, the horizon shimmered with movement. Small ships appeared in the distance, carrying settlers who had followed the faint signals from the artifact. Ryder watched them land with Clara, their faces full of hope and curiosity. Dustspire was harsh, but these people were determined. And for the first time, Ryder felt a deep connection to a community, a sense of belonging he had long denied himself. Clara moved among the settlers, explaining the artifact's significance and guiding them to build small shelters, plant glowing flora, and repair equipment. Ryder observed her carefully, impressed by her calm authority and her ability to inspire trust. He realized that this was more than leadership, it was love in action. She cared not just for the artifact, but for the people, for the future, for life itself. As the suns climbed higher, Ryder and Clara walked together to the edge of the outpost platform. Below, the settlers worked to carve paths and arrange gardens, guided by the soft green glow of the artifact. Ryder felt a swell of pride. Dustspire was no longer just a desert, it was becoming a home. Clara paused and placed her hand on Ryder's arm. "You've changed too," she said softly. Ryder looked at her, feeling the warmth of her touch. "Maybe I've always been waiting for someone like you," he admitted. Clara smiled. "And I've been waiting for someone who could see what I saw." They stood together in silence for a moment, watching the settlers and the artifact's glow. Ryder realized that the danger of the past, the hunters, the unknown, the harsh desert, was nothing compared to the hope of the present. Dustspire had tested him, but it had also taught him something essential. Survival was important, but connection, trust and love were what made life worth living. As evening approached, Ryder and Clara gathered the settlers in the main hall. The artifact hovered above the table, pulsing gently, and a faint projection of the canyon's possibilities filled the room. Ryder felt the hum of energy in his chest again, a quiet reminder that they were not alone. "Look around you," Clara said softly. "This is Dustspire's gift. A place to grow, a place to build, and a place to care for each other. My husband dreamed this. Now we can make it real." The settlers nodded, their faces bright with hope and determination. Ryder felt a deep warmth in his chest. He had spent years alone, avoiding attachment, fearing loss. But here, in this outpost, with Clara beside him, he understood something he had never allowed himself to believe. Love was not a weakness. It was strength. It was courage. It was life itself. Night fell over Dustspire, and the twin moons cast silver light across the canyon. The settlers' shelters glowed softly, reflecting the artifact's light. Ryder and Clara stood on the platform together, watching the canyon come alive with movement, laughter, and life. Ryder turned to Clara. "We've done it," he said quietly. Clara smiled, resting her hand on the artifact. "We've only just begun. Dustspire has a long way to go." "But we can do it together," Ryder nodded, feeling the bond between them deepen. He realized that for the first time in years, he was not afraid of the future. He had someone to trust, someone to build with, and a purpose beyond mere survival. The artifact pulsed one last time, sending a gentle wave of green light across the canyon. Ryder felt it resonate with him, as if acknowledging his growth, his courage, and his willingness to open his heart. As the settlers slept, the outpost quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the desert wind, Ryder and Clara sat together on the platform. The twin moons reflected off their faces, and Ryder finally allowed himself to speak the words he had long avoided. "I never thought I could feel this alive." Clara leaned against him gently. "Life is more than surviving, Ryder. And love, it's never too late to find." Ryder looked out across Dustspire at the glowing outpost, the settlers, and the canyon stretching endlessly before them. He felt a quiet peace settle over him. The harsh desert had taught him strength, solitude, and survival. But Clara had shown him something more: hope, connection, and the quiet power of caring for someone beyond yourself. Together, they watched the twin moons rise higher, and Ryder understood that Dustspire had given him more than a home. It had given him a second chance at life, at trust, and at love. And for the first time in years, he was ready to embrace it.